Give it a minute to connect, right? It takes a little bit. It takes a minute for everything to get fired up and start streaming.
I think we are on live.
We are live.
We are live. Hello, everybody.
Aloha, everyone. My name's David.
My name is Mamiko.
This is kind of a strange... We were talking about this last night, that this is kind of a strange... Excuse me? Getting a little feedback here.
Yeah.
This is kind of a strange and historic event for us because...
It is.
We've never done anything quite like this.
Well, we've done it in Japanese, but I have never ever... Hey, Richard-san.
Aloha, Richard-san.
Thank you for saying hi. I'm so glad you're tuning in. Yes, so I have never ever done any broadcast in English. So this is a historical moment for me that I just coming out in English.
This is like Mamiko's coming out party, because we've been together more than 20 years.
Hello, Jack.
Hello, Jack from LA. We've been together more than 20 years, and we've been doing the quote family business for more than 15.
Right.
So we've taught together in English.
Right.
But we've never done anything this public.
Right.
In English.
And also, last 15 or 16 years, no, 19 years, I forgot. It's been a long time. I've been so busy with Japanese, working with Japanese people. I just didn't have any time available for outside of Japan. So that's one of the reasons. Right.
And also, and we'll probably share a little bit about this as we go along, but up until recently, most of our work, most of our effort has been in Japan because Mamiko's Japanese, and she's over the years developed quite a following there. So that's where our focus has been. But the world is changing, things are evolving, and now I'm very happy, I'm thrilled actually, that we're going to be doing more and more things in English. So this live from Lemuria is an informal chat,
right?
Because we want to tell you more about ourselves. I especially want you to hear more about Mamiko, since she's been kind of hiding.
No, I wasn't hiding.
No, but
I was just busy with elsewhere.
Busy. Yeah, she's been busy elsewhere. Not hiding out, but busy elsewhere. But now we want to be able to answer your questions and just share a lot more content and fun and connect with everyone in the English speaking world. So before this live,
I want to say hi to
Bonnie.
Bonnie, am I pronouncing?
Yeah, Bonnie.
Bonnie, hello. Thank
Aloha,
you for tuning
Bonnie
in.
from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. So nice to see you again, or be with you again. So before today's live, I did email my list and got a bunch of great questions back. So our plan is just to go through the questions that we received in advance. But as we go along, if any of you live have a question, or you think of a follow-on question, just type it in the chat and we will be more than happy to get to that. But thank you everyone so much for being here, either live or watching the recording, because I know a lot of people, it's the middle of the night for them.
In Europe.
No. In Europe, it's...
I think it's the middle.
Oh, yeah, that is true, right?
And
that's right, middle of the night.
In Australia, it's early in the morning.
Right. Okay, so one of the most common questions that we've received, not only for this live, but we've been asked recently, is, who are your guides?
That's a very interesting question.
That's a great question.
Great
Who are your guides? Actually, people ask similar questions, so I've just kind of combined them here. Who are your guides? Have they always been the same? And how do you experience them? How do you experience them? So, Mamiko, Who are your guides?
My guides are several goddesses. Right now, I'm currently working with 12 Lemurian goddesses. I sometimes work with individually, but most of the time, they talk to me as collective consciousness
So as a group,
group.
right?
Yeah.
And you've been working with them for a few years, haven't you?
No, decades.
That's all right. Well,
Decades.
that's why I'm asking. See, I'm the interviewer. I get to prompt a question, and then you get
Okay.
to say, "No, decades."
Decades, yes. Have I been always working with them? No, I know they've been always with me, but when I was awakened, that was like summer of year 2000, so it was like 24 years ago, such a long time ago. The first goddess came down to me was goddess Aphrodite. And then Mother Mary came, and Kuan Yin came, and Abundantia came. So at the beginning, just those goddesses came in, and they kind of prepare for me to meet with Lemurian goddesses. And a few years later, when I was ready, I was introduced to Lemurian goddesses. So ever since then, I've been always with me with Lemurian goddesses.
And Aphrodite came out of nowhere for you, didn't she?
Right. I didn't even know who was Aphrodite. I mean, I have a statue right there right now. Oh, here. Okay, here, here, yeah. But when she came in, I even didn't know what is Aphrodite. And
You've never heard of her before.
I've never heard of Aphrodite. So I Googled Aphrodite, and I was shocked to see, oh, that was a name of a goddess, because up until then I saw goddesses fairy tale thing, and I never thought they would start talking to me, and I thought, wow, this is interesting. So that was the beginning of my journey.
And didn't you meet Archangel Michael somewhere along the way?
So while goddesses were dropping in, also angels were dropping in, like Archangel Michael and Ariel and Gabriel. So at the very beginning of my spiritual journey, goddesses and angels are kind of guiding me together. But later on, when my connection with Lemurian goddesses got very strong, then angels kind of
backed off
yes, but they do drop in once in a while. What about you? Tell me about your guide.
Well, when I started doing healing work, I started receiving guidance, and I could feel them around me and sometimes working through me, but I wasn't sure who it was. I just learned to trust them because they felt safe. But then one day, my mentor said, there's a guide waiting for you. You should probably go into meditation and find out who it is. So, trusting my mentor, as I always did, I went into meditation, and I met an elven warrior named Cartian. And I was surprised because I had no expectations. So here this beautiful and powerful warrior shows up, Cartian, and she gave me so much great guidance and loving guidance right off the bat. And she led me to a Lemurian teacher of mine, and the name he gave me was Armenthal the Elder. So I started working with Armenthal. But then from there, it just became experimenting, and different guides would drop in now and again. And I remember, so I worked with Kuan Yin for a while. I was connecting with Goddess Pele for a while. She was giving me some really nice messages. And I worked with Master Jesus for a little while. But here's the thing. Master Jesus, when he would drop in on me, he would invariably do it while I was sitting on the toilet. And, here I am, I'm having reverence for my guides, and, I'm just kind of treating them, with kind of deference and respect. And Master Jesus would show up when I'm sitting on the toilet, and I would say, really? Is this when you're coming to talk to me? And he said, and he was very straightforward, like an older brother who knows better. He said, it's the only time that you're not really distracted by your third dimensional world. And it's like, okay, I get it. But then my connection with guides evolved. I started working with a group of my Lemurian teachers. And then that group, I realized, was part of a little bit larger council of elven beings. So I was working with them for many, many years. And most recently, a new council of beings have made themselves known to me beginning of this year. So I've just started working with them. But yeah, it has evolved over the last 25 years.
Yeah, sorry, we got to this, like, it took a long time for us to get all of them, but we just wanted to tell you that guides change as you evolve. That's pretty common, isn't it?
Very common. And
maybe some people just stay.
Well, I know
with
some
one
people
guide.
stay with primary.
Yeah.
Like my mentor had a primary guide, and every once in a while he would channel Merlin or a Native American shaman. But yeah, I thought, because people have been asking me about this for years, and we've never really had a chance to talk about it. I just, we wanted to share the full story.
Yeah, full story. Oh, by the way, Martin also dropped.
Aloha, Martin,
Aloha, Martin,
from Brisbane.
Yeah,
Great to have you here.
Thank you for joining us.
So, how do you experience your Lemurian goddesses and other guides?
Okay, they are always with me, right? So I feel their presence with me, and from time to time, they throw me. That's a really weird.
They give you a download?
Yeah, they gave me download. I mean, information comes in like a boop.
Yeah.
So when that happens, usually happens in the morning. I wake up like without knowing why I have this idea in my head, and I have to wake up and I just have to start writing down the information. So I'm asking my loving husband, please do not disturb me in the morning, because in the morning my goddess talked to me and I'm very busy to writing down what they're telling to me, and if you start talking to me I will forget and I lose the connection with my goddess. So morning is a sacred time for me with goddesses, so I'm just asking him, please leave me alone.
So
with my goddesses.
in general, I just pretend she's not here in the morning because I know she's connecting. I have a similar experience where I don't have strong images, but I feel them with me, and I know when they're trying to get my attention because I'll feel the information come. But also sometimes they speak with little bright sparkles of light. Like in the upper right hand, I might have a bright blue dot, or in my lower left a little violet dot, and I kind of know, okay, what do you want me to pay attention to? Or I get a high pitched ringing in my left ear, and it's like, okay, what do you have for me? So it varies, but yes, as Martin says, it does keep you humble, working with spirit in this way.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
But this leads us on to another question that a couple of people have asked. It's like, okay, all the stuff that you teach in your online courses and workshops, where does that information come from? And I know one person said, I've tried to do research and I can't find any source material for what you're talking about. So where do you get your stuff?
That's a very good question.
It is a good question.
All from my goddesses and all from my guides, because I had the same problem when I was awakened. I was that was 2001 autumn. I remember very clearly. I was told by somebody that you were in Lemuria, and that was when I heard the word Lemuria for the first time. And when I heard that word Lemuria, I connected immediately, and I desperately wanted to know about Lemuria. However, there was no information, so I had no choice, but I had to get the information by myself. So with the help of my mentor, back then I start channeling goddesses and downloading, information. So most of the information I got all from my goddesses and just a little bit from our mentors. We have common mentors.
Yeah, and he helped us learn a lot of basics and fundamentals, but basically he opened the door for us, saying, okay, here's some basics, because I first heard the word Lemuria when I met him, and I had no idea what it was, what language it was, but when I heard the word Lemuria, I just felt like a switch got turned on, and all of a sudden something was starting to move inside of me, but then gradually learned what it was. And so our common mentor was a starting point many, many years ago, but all the stuff we teach in workshops primarily is from our own experience and the information we've received channeling. So that's why you're not going to find it all over the internet.
No. No.
But that leads on to a related question. Someone, and you started to answer this. So people were wondering, did we know about Lemuria before we met or afterwards? And it was definitely before we met.
Before, yeah.
Yeah, because you had that experience in Japan.
Right.
I was in Hawaii. So yeah, we were definitely exploring our Lemuria connections before we met each other. And here's the next logical, just these are in great order. Do you feel that you were in Lemuria at the same time? Do you have specific memories?
I have very specific memory.
Share some of your specific memories with our lovely audience.
Well, there were several, not only one time, but this is a funny one. I was married to him, married, but it wasn't the marriage like we have right now. I was a mermaid, and he was somebody living in a forest. And so daytime, I was swimming in the water and enjoying the ocean. And at night, when the moon goes up, I turn into human body and go to see him in the forest. And we spend nighttime together, and daytime I go back to the ocean. So, but that memory
you were a shapeshifter.
Yes, I was. Well, actually,
mermaids in general were.
But Lemurians are all shapeshifters.
Right.
What are we talking about?
Right. But that's a very dramatic example when you actually have memory of it.
Right. So that was one of my memory, and the other memory was we were both dolphins and swimming together and traveling in an ocean together, and I really liked that lifetime together. It was so fun.
Yeah,
dolphin and communicating with telepathy. That was really, really fun.
Yeah, and I've had a long history of lifetimes in the water world, so that felt totally natural to me. And my memories of Lemuria are, I have less specific memories of being incarnate in Lemuria. For some reason, I have more specific memories of being a spirit guide in Lemurian times. I know I had lifetimes in Lemuria, but the memories that seem to resonate more with me is me acting as a spirit guide for other people. So there was a time when I wasn't physical, so I was serving in that way. Do you feel that you've had any other past lives together?
Outside of
Lemuria?
I think we do. I think we do.
Here's the thing. I think we've had a lot.
Yeah, I think we do.
I think the two of us have been connected for, I don't even want to measure time, but
what were you doing when Jesus was here?
I was kind of off to the side being an observer. I was physical, but I was being an observer. What about you?
I think I was one of the women following Jesus, but back then we might be known each other.
That's very possible.
Possible, right? But
Yeah.
Mm.
But even beyond the earth,
Mm.
Mamiko and I feel that we've been connected for a long, long time, and that us being together in this lifetime is just a plan from a long time ago coming to fruition, saying, okay, when this third dimensional world gets going and gets to a certain point, let's meet up and do this together. So yeah, we've been connected as souls for a long, long time.
That's
Many
for
star
sure.
systems, many different dimensions. Yeah, this is
That's
just
so true.
this is just the most recent one. Okay, here's some questions I'm going to ask you.
What?
Do Lemurians have an angelic realm?
Yes. As a matter of fact, Lemuria started with a combination of angelic realm and elven realm. Can you explain?
Yeah. So a lot of people ask, who started Lemuria? Well, it was a combination of the elven realm and angelic realm coming together, mixing their light together to try something new and create this Lemurian experience. Now, angels in general, there are many different levels of angels. There's all sorts of experience within that, but in general, angels have not incarnated into physical form. In general. However, on the elven side of the equation, elven are the oldest race of beings in the universe that still incarnate. So this is an ancient and very wise race of beings that have had so much evolutionary experience in so many different realms. So in a sense, they have the most experience. They're like the masters of incarnation, and angels are a little bit on the other side. So they wove their light together to create the Lemurian experience. So yes, and those two realms are kind of oversaw the evolution of Lemuria.
Then later on, Lemuria was welcoming starseeds from Pleiades or Sirius.
Yeah, starseeds from all over the place, and it was really kind of managed by goddess energy. So once it got going, goddesses, in a sense, oversaw the evolution of Lemuria. So yeah, various angelic realms connected with Lemuria. In fact, they were one of the sources of the whole project.
Right.
Great question. Will we be able to learn more about the Lemurian goddesses, Mamiko? People are asking.
If anybody want to know, yes, I'm happy to share.
So if you want to know, because this is the expert. In fact, you've been teaching about Lemurian goddesses for years in Japan.
Yeah.
In Japan.
Long, I don't know how long. 15 years maybe, yeah.
And Mamiko even published a book in Japan about Lemurian goddesses. But even after all these years, I found no one else on the planet who is teaching about Lemurian goddesses or channeling information from them. So if you're interested, all of you now in the English-speaking world, if you're interested in learning more about Lemurian goddesses, I think we can start asking Mamiko to share some more with us.
You're going to have to teach with me, though.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be teaching with you. But if you're interested, let us know, because if there's interest, we will fill that desire. Okay. Great. Some people. Mamiko also published 2 oracle card decks in Japanese, and someone's asking, I would love to know more about your oracle cards.
Well, my oracle deck cards are all in Japanese, and I published a long time ago. So this is my new wish. I would like to publish my new Lemurian goddess or Lemurian cards in English with new design or new illustration
New
and
artwork.
everything, new artwork with current my energies. So when that comes out, I would love to share with you, but right now I don't all I have is all Japanese.
Yeah, unfortunately,
Yeah.
there were a few years ago, and they only available in Japanese.
Mm.
But with those 2 card decks,
Mhm.
that was a pretty amazing manifestation that you
Mhm.
had, because there's a very famous artist
Mhm.
in Japan, and Mamiko, you talked to Goddess and said, I want to
Right.
do a card deck with this guy, and it came about. And this is a
Mhm.
very famous, in-demand
Mhm.
artist, and he ended up doing 2 oracle decks with her, an angel
Mhm.
card deck and a Lemurian
Mhm.
card deck. So
Mhm.
I think now that your energy is different, it's time to attract a new
Yeah,
artist.
new artist and a new message.
Yeah.
And because I published those cards like more than 10 years ago, and my energy has changed
Mhm.
so much.
Yeah.
And I've been working with goddesses and angels last 20 years, and it's amazing. It's just continuous evolution. Even this morning, I got new download and new energy, and it's just ever flowing, never ending evolution. And what can I say?
No.
Evolution.
You're saying, yeah.
Journey with them,
Yeah.
and awakening. So yeah, every day is so like a new day.
Yeah.
New
So,
day.
but after 10 years, you're ready to create something new.
Something new,
Yeah.
yes. Something exciting.
Mhm. So, if you know any divine feminine goddess-like artists who might want to collaborate, you can send me an email.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, now we're going to get into some personal questions. I know we got a little personal. Okay, how did you meet?
How did we meet, sweetheart?
Well, for starters, Mamiko came to Hawaii. That was the first part. But we met because she and a friend came to one of my Lemurian wisdom workshops.
Yes, so we met in Lemuria in Hawaii, and I found his Lemurian workshop. And back then, I was so interested in Lemuria, so I thought, oh, I have to go this. Somebody is going to teach Lemuria, so I have to go. So that's why I went to his workshop. Can I talk about your
Sure, go ahead.
mother? When I went to his workshop, without knowing, I sat next to his mother, who was also attending his workshop. And I didn't ask her anything, but she started introducing herself, and she told me everything about him.
Yeah, my mom, who would just talk to strangers and tell them everything, like TMI, too much information. My mom was the pro, the master.
So before I meet with him, or before I start talking to him, I already knew how old he is, which hospital he was born, and everything. So that was a really interesting situation.
So this was a weekly Wednesday class I was holding. There was probably 36 chairs in the circle. And for some reason, my mom was there that time, my dad, one of my sisters was there, and Mamiko, as the universe would have it, would sit next to my mom and get my whole life story before she even heard a word from me.
That's how we met.
So that's how we met. But we were talking about this the other day, that again, this relationship, this lifetime together is the culmination of a long, long history. So it was like we knew we were going to connect again in this lifetime. I was born in Japan. So that's why my mom felt it was okay to give her my entire life stories, because, oh, you're Japanese? So there was that connection. And also I realized,
I think your mom was channeling.
Yeah, I think my mom was channeling. My mom wasn't very spiritual at all. I have no idea why she was at my workshop, because she had no interest in things like that. But
I think she was channeling. When she saw me, she felt like, wow, this lady might have significance to my
My
son.
son,
I
yeah.
have to tell
Well,
her about him.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if the universe conveniently used her
Mhm.
as a convenient tool in that situation.
Mhm.
But my family left Japan when I was just, I don't know, 2.5 years old. And I didn't go back to Japan until I was 30. But when I went back to Japan, first time
Mhm.
since I was a baby, um, I went to Osaka, where I was born. I did a little homestay, a little tour, just to see the place
Mhm.
where I'd come into the world. Mamiko happened to be working in Osaka during that time.
Mhm.
So I like to think that at some time during my visit to Osaka, we
Mhm.
passed each other on an escalator or walked past each other
Mhm.
on the sidewalk because our
That's
higher
possible.
selves
Yeah.
knew, like,
Mhm.
they're going to get
Mhm.
together one of these days.
Mhm.
So, yeah, anyway,
Let's move on,
yeah, let's
sweetie.
move on.
Let's move on.
Sometimes I get a little long winded, but it's okay.
Let's move on.
Were either of you married before or in long relationships before? How was the feeling you had for one another different than with others?
Mm. So before David, I was once married with somebody else, and of course, you had some long relationship
Had a
with
couple
somebody
of
else.
relationships before, yeah.
But David is completely different. So yes, I really feel David is my soulmate love and somebody who I hear. Um, I mean, somebody I hold dear, and he is love of my life. And I wouldn't say the people whom I met before him were bad or wrong, but it's just before I was before marriage and before him, I was not awakened. So I had in a way like a human journey, human learning. But after that was done, I was awakened and I waken up to divine feminine, and I love myself more. Then finally I could see him as my true love, and it's completely different. So it's worth what was the journey? Is
Yeah.
that what you could say? Mm-hmm.
But a lot of times we don't really know what we appreciate until we experience things. It's like, no, it's not
That is
that.
so
No, it's
true.
not
Yeah,
that. And then
yeah.
you think,
Mm-hmm.
oh, okay,
Mm-hmm.
this is it.
Yeah. If I met with, if he was the first love in my life, I probably wouldn't appreciate him as much as I am right now.
Yeah, and
Mm-hmm.
I feel the same way
Mm-hmm.
because for most of my life, I
Mm-hmm.
never had any urge to get married or have children. So that wasn't even part of who I was. So most of my friends and peers were like that, but I just never had that feeling.
Mm-hmm.
But then once I crossed the age of 42 and I'm with Mamiko, things started to change.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, this is what a soul relationship is like, right? This is something we planned a long time ago. And then I thought, okay, of course I want to marry this person. So, yeah, very, very different.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, we teach this in Lemurian numerology that, at least with human lifetimes,
Mm-hmm.
approximately every 7 years, there's a significant
Mm-hmm.
shift. But for women and for men that are more balanced, masculine and feminine, around the age of 42, many of us experience a significant,
Mm-hmm.
dramatic, sometimes traumatic
Mm-hmm.
shift. So even with the two of us, we talk about our
Mm-hmm.
lifetimes before the age of 42
Mm-hmm.
and then our life after the age of 42. And it just,
Mm-hmm.
we talk about, okay, first life, second life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you might wonder, how is it different? So one word, if I have to put, is I have never ever experienced love like every day after 20 years of together, but still every day I love him more. How is today than yesterday? Am I
Yeah,
saying
yeah,
that?
that's
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah. I feel the same way. It's
Mm-hmm.
amazing where you realize that
Mm-hmm.
no matter how long, I mean, we've been together more than 20 years now,
Mm-hmm.
but it gets better all the time.
Right.
And I
So
appreciate it more
mm-hmm.
all the time.
And you feel every day, I'm so happy that I'm married to him. I'm so glad we have journey together. And I never even thought this kind of relationship is possible,
Me
because
either.
when I was child, none of the people around me were happily married. They were very unhappy. And my parents were not happy with each other, and nobody was happily married. So I thought, marriage is not a happy,
Marriage is a terrible thing.
terrible thing maybe. But now I met with him, and after 20 years together, we are still loving more and more every day. And I thought, wow, this is what divine connection do. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, this is wonderful. It's wonderful. And
Yep, we did good.
we did good, sweetie.
All right. But also, we're happy too that in our work, especially in Japan, people seeing us together can be very inspirational, because there are a lot of women in Japan who grow up with the same expectation as Mamiko. Is like marriage is not a happy thing, or marriage is a hard thing. But they see us together and they say, "Oh, look at what's possible." So I'm glad it worked out for two of us, but also I'm glad that it inspires other people that yes, you can have the same thing if you want.
And it's very funny. When I was a little child, I've never seen anybody happily married. But now I'm happily married. People we meet with, they are also happily married. Isn't it interesting?
Yeah. Most of the people we meet that are couples,
they're happily married too.
Happily married. Yeah, I just got a text half an hour ago from some friends in the neighborhood we just met, and they just seem like a really sweet, happy. They've been together 34 years, they said, and they just said, "Hey, we'd love to have you over for dinner." So, yeah, we tend to attract and meet couples.
They are also happily
very happily married. Yeah. Hey, tell them you had a vision when you were a little kid about who your husband was going to be.
Yeah. So one of the question, was like something like, why you always like that? Or when did you realize you have a spiritual gift?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so why don't you ask me that question?
Okay, I've jumped ahead. So this perfect segue to the next set of questions. How and when did you each start feeling your spiritual gifts? Was it sudden or gradual? When did you really embrace them?
So in my case, when I was small, when I was like children, when I was
tiny?
Tiny.
When you were tiny?
When I was tiny, I was feeling spirit and hearing their voice, and also playing with them once in a while. And I had this knowing what's gonna happen in my future. And so when I was a small child, I already knew my husband will be American, and with cute American accent, and with a long eyelash. So I just knew, So I had lots of that kind of knowing.
But you were very young.
Yeah, I was like 7.
Well, so you weren't a tiny, but
yes. 7 or even smaller. But as I get older, I lost the connection, because
kids often do.
Because until 7 years old, our soul go in. How can I? Do you remember the story of the?
Right. When we incarnate, before we come out of our mother's womb, we're kind of in and out. Our higher self is in and out of the physical body because we're not quite ready to take on that heavy, dense experience. But for the first 7 years, you're still kind of formulating your blueprint and gathering information. So your path isn't really set. So a lot of us are really open until the age of 7.
Right. So up until 7, we are in physical body, and then lots of time out of physical body. And that was really common for me. And I clearly remember I was out of body and went other dimensions and playing with spirit guide and stuff like that. But then after 7, we all get trapped in our physical body, and I
The
started.
veils really
Veil
start.
get really heavy, and I start losing connection until my second, life started, and Aphrodite came in knocking on my door. Hey, it's time to
Time to
wake
wake up.
up.
Yeah.
How about you? Did you have a?
I do not have memories of being very kind of aware or psychic when I was younger. However, as I started to awaken spiritually and start to work with my guides and councils of light, I realized a lot of things I experienced when I was younger. It's like, okay, they really helped save my butt in a number of situations, or whether it was my higher self or my guides. But I realized that there were wise and loving beings who were looking out for me along the way, because my first life, I was a knucklehead a lot, and wasn't sure what I was doing, and potentially created some difficult life disasters or whatever. So anyway, I didn't really become aware until I was older, but I know they've been with me my whole life.
Okay, sweetheart, let's get going with the list of the.
Okay, we're done here.
Yeah.
There's just one more question, because someone knows we spend a lot of time in Japan. It's like, how do you split your time between Hawaii and Japan?
Oh, before COVID, we went to Japan so many times. I used to go 3 or 4 times a year, but
to teach workshop.
Yeah. But then COVID happened, and we were trapped in Hawaii. The COVID Hawaii was very, very strict.
Very strict.
So we are not allowed to live here. So then we had to switch to online teaching. So ever since then, we went back to Japan only once
in the last 4 years.
Last 4 years, and this year we probably not going to teach in Japan so much anymore.
So that used to be like the quote family business was primarily in Japan for many years. As she said, we used to go there quite a few times and teach workshops in person. But with the pandemic, everything moved online. And during the pandemic, the Japanese were not happy to have any foreigners whatsoever. No. So the universe conspired to kind of shut that way of doing business down, so that we can move everything online and start doing things like this with you here online. So if that's it for the questions we got in advance. If anybody here has any questions you want to type in the chat live, we'd be happy to address them. I think we're only going to stay online for a few more minutes. So if you have a question, go for it in the chat. But we really appreciate this opportunity to share more about us and our journey, and just to get to know us a little bit better, because we do want to bring more content to you. And I'm just thrilled that I get to bring more content to you with this one. And we can play together and do this in English, because it's a thrill for me to be able to speak my own language. I'm so glad you learned how to speak English. Because your English is awesome. My Japanese is good enough to get through the convenience store and a restaurant, maybe a hotel. So I'm excited to do things in English.
I guess nobody has questions.
That's okay. But we look forward to doing this again with you sometime soon. Thank you so much for
tuning in,
joining us here and submitting questions in advance. And we really look forward to connecting with you again in the future. So until we see you next time, we send you our love and light from Lemuria.
Bye.
Aloha. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Bonnie, Jack, Martin, Richard. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Aloha.
Aloha.